The lights shone brightly against the backdrop of the dark night, illuminating a back alley of the city that came alive after dusk. On one side, the city slept in silent repose, while the other side began to stir quietly into the night. This was the division between two worlds that never intertwined. Only under the cloak of night, away from the city's brilliant lights, could the hidden lives emerge. The alley buzzed with the activity of merchants and the laughter of drinkers, a stark contrast to the stillness elsewhere. In the midst of the bustling crowd, a blonde-haired boy stood alone, his eyes fixed on something remarkable. "Looks impressive," he muttered to himself, his gaze locked on an exquisite sword displayed in front of a blacksmith's shop. The sword, slender and radiant, exuded an elegance that demanded attention, its brilliance unmatched by anything else in the grimy alley. It was as if the sword itself cast a light, a beacon in the dim surroundings. This singular light from the sword reached out, touching the boy's heart through his eyes. It was a light potent enough to illuminate something deep within his soul, revealing inner truths previously shrouded in darkness. The boy's feet had begun to sink into the mud of the road, a result of standing in one place for an extended period, yet this seemed of no concern to him. "You're lost in thought again," a voice remarked, belonging to someone who had approached the boy as he stood, endlessly gazing at the sword. "Vlad, do you realize you've been acting a bit odd lately? That's the reason rumors about you have started to circulate." The speaker, a girl donning worn-out attire, contrasted sharply with her vibrant red hair, making her a notably colorful presence against the grim backdrop of the alley. The boy, upon noticing the girl who approached him, offered her a vacant stare. "So what? There's nothing on my agenda today anyway." "Why would you say there's nothing to do? Are you planning to just follow Madame and Jorge's orders?" she challenged him. The girl with the fiery red hair raised her hands, positioning them in front of the boy for him to see. "Look at this. My hands have been in water for so long doing dishes that I might develop eczema. Should someone who relies on their beauty for a living suffer from eczema?" "Why are you showing those to me? You're being annoying," Vlad retorted, visibly irritated, and pushed the girl's hands away. He added, "This is one of the rare moments of peace in my otherwise chaotic day. Don't disturb me." The boy's response carried a tone of dismissal, though the red-haired girl appeared unperturbed. Understanding the challenges of survival in the harsh alley, even minor setbacks were not taken lightly. She shifted her attention to Vlad's complexion and leaned in close, feigning concern as she whispered into his ear. "So, you still hear voices when you hold something like a stick?" Observing his nonverbal confirmation, the girl furrowed her brow. "I wonder what sin you committed in a past life to be struck by lightning out of the blue and end up like this," she mused aloud. Rumors had been circulating even within the perpetually bustling back alleys of the city, particularly focusing on the blonde boy who had seemingly been struck by lightning out of nowhere. "And to make matters worse, why did it have to be black lightning of all things?" she continued, expressing her perplexity. "If you're just going to be a nuisance, then leave," he added, his tone tinged with frustration. Despite the boy's indifferent rejection, a wave of disappointment surged within the girl. However, she chose to remain silent, keeping her thoughts to herself. "I have to endure," she reminded herself, understanding the necessity of maintaining composure in such rough and harsh surroundings. "But Vlad, don't you think it's time to return?" she gently suggested, aware that the timing was not ideal. "There's no point in lingering here aimlessly. Spend some time in the shop instead. You know the bishop is sensitive to such matters," she advised, her tone carrying a hint of urgency. "Sensitive to what?" Vlad inquired, finally diverting his attention from the sword to the girl. "Omens," she replied. Approaching Vlad's ear with caution, the girl whispered softly, as if wary of someone overhearing. Her breath against his ear elicited a ticklish sensation. "He used to work as a heresy inquisitor, so if you show him anything suspicious, they might just burn you at the stake," she warned in a hushed tone. Before she could continue, Vlad pushed her away abruptly, his fingers hastily wiping at his ears. "Did you spit in my ear?" he demanded, a look of disbelief on his face. I can't believe it, really, the girl responded, raising her hand to her waist in astonishment at Vlad's reaction. Everyone's talking behind your back, and yet here you are, standing around like you've lost your mind for no reason. What are you thinking, lingering here like this? You might end up dragged to the church or something, she admonished, her voice tinged with concern. This time, Vlad remained silent. He acknowledged that the girl's words held truth, recognizing her genuine concern for him. Nevertheless, I just want to look a little longer, he murmured, his voice trailing off. It's so frustrating. Why not just buy it on credit? How expensive could it be? The girl exclaimed, expressing her irritation as Vlad continued to grumble. It's something from the back alley blacksmith. How much is it? Inquired the girl. That's 5 gold, replied Vlad. Wow, take a longer look, the girl said, her mouth falling open unconsciously upon hearing the amount. With that, you could eat and enjoy yourself for a whole year without doing anything, she remarked. While she may not have possessed the great insight to recognize the value of the sword before her, she certainly understood the worth of 5 gold. It wasn't as though they couldn't earn it through a lifetime of labor, but in this dark alley, accumulating such wealth was near impossible. No matter how diligently one saved, someone would inevitably steal or confiscate it. This was the harsh reality for those surviving in such an environment. With that money you could, the girl began, but both she and the boy were momentarily captivated by the light emanating from the sword. What are you two idiots doing? Blocking the entrance to someone else's shop and causing a scene, came a voice, interrupting their reverie. The owner of the blacksmith shop rushed out, his voice sharp as he shouted, These aren't things for the likes of you back alley rats to covet. The old blacksmith's voice grated like metal, driving away the young onlookers. Having stared into the flames for so long, his eyes always seemed to squint, even in moments of calm. What's the point of doing business in the back alleys if you're not selling to other back alley rats, old man? The girl, her curly red hair bouncing with each word, shouted in an angry voice, as if she were utterly dumbfounded. Even if the two of us combined haven't been here as long as you, calling us back alley rats suits you even better. You little bitch, have you no manners? Retorted the old blacksmith, recognizing the girl who dared to talk back, and spat on the ground in disdain. Go back to your shop and do the dishes, you immature little kid, he barked. Immature little kid? You're calling a grown lady that, she fired back, her indignation clear in her voice. The petite girl, radiating with self-assurance, directed her discontent not only at the boy, but also at the old blacksmith. But I'm going to debut next year. If I charge my maiden's price, that sword would only be worth a single glass of beer, she declared, fondling her pride, her red hair swaying with her movements as she smiled provocatively at the old blacksmith. It wasn't a genuine smile meant to seduce anyone, but rather an effort-filled smirk. Maybe I should buy it and use it to cut sausages, she suggested with a hint of sarcasm. You crazy bitch, the old blacksmith muttered in response, clearly taken aback by her audacity. The old blacksmith, who had poured his heart and soul into crafting the sword, trembled at the mere thought of it being used for such a mundane purpose as cutting sausages. I won't sell it to back alley bastards, he declared, his voice quivering with indignation. Why display it in the back alley if you won't sell it to back alley folks? This old man has lost his mind, exclaimed one of the bystanders, voicing their frustration. Seriously, why are you guys like this? Muttered Vlad, his expression contorting as the once calm atmosphere descended into chaos. That's enough. Let's go, Zemina. We're leaving, he urged, addressing the girl. Take that immature kid with you and get out of here, the old blacksmith spat, his anger palpable. Why don't you just stick to your usual work, instead of making swords for knights and causing such commotion? It's almost time for you to die. Vlad realized they wouldn't budge, so he swiftly seized the grinning Zemina by the back of her neck and pulled her to the end of the alley. It's because my time is almost over, you bitch. Vlad heard the old man's voice tremble with rising blood pressure, his anger unabated even after the red-haired girl disappeared. You rotten bitch. She's so full of venom. Perhaps she hasn't starved to death yet, the old man muttered, his mind drifting back to memories of young street children wandering with only a single blanket to shield them from the cold winter day. The image of 3 kids huddling together for warmth, surviving by consuming the poison of the dirty back alley rather than seeking sympathy, flashed through his mind. "How much food did I give you back then, you damn bitch?" The old man spat again, even after the girl had vanished from the alley, as if suddenly reminded of past grievances. It was the sight of something pitiable that prompted his reaction. "You idiot. Why don't you just think about eating and surviving?" he muttered under his breath, his gaze drawn to the deeply imprinted footprints in the mud. The marks indicated that the boy had been standing there for a considerable time, stirring a mixture of emotions within the old blacksmith beyond his anger towards the girl. Despite his harsh words, the old blacksmith let out a sigh meant for someone else as he began meticulously polishing what could be considered his final masterpiece. With a resigned sigh, the old blacksmith lowered his head and made his way back to his shop. "Damn it, these youngsters bother an old man too much," he grumbled to himself, feeling the weight of their presence on his shoulders. The old blacksmith extended his trembling hands and began the process of lowering the sword that hung before him. With practiced motions, he applied oil to the blade using a worn cloth. "You fool. It's hard to harbor dreams in a place like this," he murmured to himself, his voice tinged with resignation. Despite his words, he continued to meticulously polish the sword, which could be considered his final great work. "I know it well," he admitted quietly, the wrinkles around his eyes twitching as he worked. The old blacksmith had once been a young man with dreams, but the harsh realities of life had crushed those aspirations, leaving him trapped in the confines of the back alley. His once black hair had turned white, a testament to the passage of time spent in this unforgiving environment. For those born in this place, escape was a distant fantasy. Yet, despite it all, the old blacksmith still dared to dream. "I can't allow my final masterpiece to waste away in a place like this," the old man declared resolutely. With determination in his eyes, he lifted the sword, and a brilliant light emanated from its tip. "That's why I'll only sell this to someone who can escape this place," he proclaimed, his voice carrying a hint of hope amidst the darkness. Once more, the old blacksmith hung the sword high in the grimy alley, filled with filth and despair. In doing so, he placed a solitary shining star amidst the darkness, resembling the night sky. The sword, polished by the old man's unfulfilled dreams, radiated brilliantly. And though his feet remained mired in the mud, the boy who gazed at the old man's sword had eyes that sparkled like stars. Located within the domain of Count Vayezid's family, Shawara City stood as one of 3 bustling urban centers under their jurisdiction. Nestled amidst the convergence of 2 rivers, Shawara served not only as a pivotal hub for northern logistics, but also as a thriving testament to the Vayezid family's influence and prestige in the region. Hence, it came as no surprise that Shawara was often hailed as the lighthouse of the north, its radiance shining as brightly by night as it did by day. However, even within this beacon of prosperity, shadows lurked beneath the glow. One such shadowy enclave existed within the city, a place concealed beneath the radiant city lights, yet acknowledged by all. This was the slum area, where the undesirable aspects of Shawara congregated, hidden from the gleaming facade of the city's affluence. "The candle on the 2nd floor costs 20 silver, and the one on the 3rd floor costs 30 silver, stated the vendor. "Is there a discount if I buy in bulk?" queried the customer. 20 silver, 30 silver, reiterated the vendor. "Hey Vlad, remember how many loaves of bread I gave you when you used to beg on the streets? Can you give me a little extra?" shouted a middle-aged man with half of his head shaved, his accent twisting his words, but the blond boy ignored him. "If you don't have money, go home and rub your wife's ass," sneered one patron. "Ah, look at this little punk. Is it because you don't have parents to teach you? Don't," replied another, his voice filled with disdain. Within the opulently adorned 4-story building, the air was thick with desire and lust. Despite the continuous music and shouts of patrons, one voice pierced through the cacophony. "Eyes! What's with your fucking eyes?" exclaimed the middle-aged man, now considerably drunk and oblivious to the surrounding sounds. The only thing all his senses could see was the blue eyes of the blonde boy sitting in front of him. He had eyes that carried a strange, heavy weight that did not look like that of a boy who had just turned 16. Maybe because you don't know who your father is, and your mother died a long time ago, you turned out like this. Vlad lowered his head and tapped the table with his fingers. Your children also hope that their father lives a long and healthy life, so they don't end up like me. Give me 3 candles for the 2nd floor. Regaining his composure after evading Vlad's gaze, the middle-aged man swiftly retrieved the candles and dropped the silver coin with a dismissive flick. "Customer Nim, this is a 100 silver coin, you know?" he remarked, taken aback by the unexpected largesse. "Just take it, you bastard," he retorted sharply. "Have a good night, Customer Nim," the vendor called out as the man turned to leave. "You blue-eyed bastard," he muttered under his breath, unable to shake off the encounter. Earlier, Vlad had eyed him with a menacing intensity, but now, with the unexpected tip, Vlad didn't hesitate to bow deeply in gratitude. "Tastes good," Vlad remarked as he examined the 100 silver coin in his hand, a hint of satisfaction in his voice. Although Shawara boasted numerous brothels in its developed cityscape, none were quite as renowned as Rose's Smiles. This establishment garnered fame not only for the exceptional beauty of its owner and madam, Marcella, but also for the high quality of its drinks, women, and additional services. Consequently, even someone like Vlad, who merely sold candles while sitting there, encountered little difficulty in collecting a penny or two in the form of tips. However, the process was not always smooth. It could be quite rough at times. "You damn bitch! Just sell your body quietly. Why are you scamming people?" yelled a furious customer, his voice echoing down the corridor of the 2nd floor. In a distressing scene, one of the prostitutes found herself being dragged out by her hair and assaulted by the irate patron. "How did I scam you?" she pleaded, her voice trembling with fear. "I've been a mercenary for 20 years. You're selling useless drugs," the customer accused angrily. The brown-haired prostitute stretched her arms forward, more afraid of the man's fists swinging in front of her than the shame of her exposed breasts. "There's never a quiet day," Vlad sighed, observing the chaotic scene before him. He gathered the candles in front of him and ascended the stairs to the 2nd floor. "Customer Nim, what's going on?" he inquired as he reached the commotion. "Vlad, please save me," pleaded the distressed prostitute. "Why's this damn little kid here? Call your madam over here, you bastard!" shouted an irate customer, his voice cutting through the tension of the corridor. Vlad, keeping his composure, quietly placed the tray he was holding on the ground and let out a weary sigh. "If you want to meet our madam, you'll need gold coins, not silver coins," he replied calmly, despite the escalating situation. "What kind of gold coins are you talking about when you are running such a shitty business? You bastard, bring your mother if madam is not here," the customer retorted angrily, his voice laden with frustration. As the confrontation unfolded, several patrons who had been enjoying drinks in the 1st floor lobby began to take notice, their interest piqued by the commotion spreading throughout the building. Prostitutes were engaged in debauchery, their knees sinking into the plush carpet of the dimly lit room. Meanwhile, patrons held beer bottles in their left hands and cigarettes in their right, their attention fixated on the unfolding scene as if anticipating the most entertaining spectacle. "Tell me your problem," Vlad requested of the man, who claimed to have 20 years of experience as a mercenary, while covering his eyes with his palms. "This candle," the man exclaimed in frustration, throwing the offending object and shouting, "Isn't this a 7-minute candle? Why the hell is it burning all the way down just after I take my pants off?" With an indifferent expression, Vlad watched the candle slowly roll across the floor. The rose candle served a dual purpose as both a timekeeping tool and a means of transaction. Burning completely in 7 minutes, it acted as a standard for measuring the duration between customers and prostitutees. All right then, Vlad declared, retrieving one of the candles used on the second floor from a nearby box. Do you see that clock over there? I will light this candle, and let's see if it lasts for exactly 7 minutes. In the lobby of the first floor, where revelry was paramount, there was no clock to mark the passage of time. However, on the second and third floors, where time sensitivity was crucial, clocks were readily available. Why should I listen to you swindlers? Protested the man, who had earlier claimed to be a mercenary, crossing his arms in defiance. But despite his reluctance, he eventually relented. Let's do it, he agreed, albeit begrudgingly. The man found himself nodding in agreement as he met Vlad's penetrating blue gaze, unable to resist the power exuded by those eyes. Jorge, the organization's boss, had once remarked on Vlad's eyes, suggesting that they possessed the authority to rule over any alley just through a single glance. If it doesn't last for 7 minutes, you can decide whether to spare the girl or not, Vlad declared, striking a match against the sole of his shoe. But if this candle lasts for 7 minutes, then I will beat the crap out of you. What? The mercenary stammered, caught off guard by Vlad's sudden challenge. Before he could react, Vlad lit the candle in the middle of the corridor and placed it down. Vlad, the pitiful prostitute murmured anxiously, her gaze fixed on him rather than the candle. As minutes ticked by, attention in the corridor became increasingly focused on the burning candle. Huh? The mercenary's eyes widened in surprise as the candle continued to burn beyond the expected time, yet he still gripped the prostitute's hair tightly. It's been 7 minutes, you bastard, Vlad exclaimed, his voice dripping with anger as he swung the club he had slung around his waist with lightning speed. Bah! Red blood splattered from the mercenary's head as the fierce blow landed. Ah! The mercenary cried out in pain, loosening his grip on the prostitute's hair in response to Vlad's sudden attack, allowing her to escape. You're done for today, Vlad declared, seizing the unconscious mercenary by the collar and dragging him back into the room they had just vacated. Click! The sound of a door locking echoed in the room. You tried to deceive us first. A 20-year veteran mercenary like you has grown this much of a belly. How? Vlad chastised, his anger evident as he delivered sharp blows to the mercenary's prone form. Crack, crack. The sound of bones breaking mixed with the mercenary's agonized screams. Why are so many people looking for my mother today of all days? Do you think I would live in sorrow under the sky without parents? Vlad questioned, his voice tinged with frustration. The door clicked shut, sealing off the room from prying eyes. Outside, the sounds of blows and a man's screams reverberated through the corridor. With all the pent-up anger he had suppressed earlier, Vlad focused on delivering punishing blows to the man before him. Ah! Stop! The man pleaded, but Vlad's rage was relentless. Shut your mouth, you bastard! Vlad retorted, his voice dripping with fury. As the spectators, initially eager for a brawl, realized they couldn't see the fight, their attention shifted back to the prostitutes. Amidst the cacophony of music and shouts, the sound of the club striking flesh and the man's agonized screams punctuated the air. From the fourth floor, a black-haired woman gestured downwards, signaling to someone below. Amidst the chaos and noise, anger and excitement, one thing was clear. This was Shawara, and this was Rose's Smiles. It was a transient gathering spot where lives passed through and lingered for a moment, suspended in time. As the noisy night gave way to a quiet morning, sunlight gently bathed the Roses Inn. The morning ambiance, adorned with elegant trinkets, exuded an air of opulence akin to that of a noble's villa. Each luxurious embellishment held within it the toil and sacrifice of the black-haired woman, though few recognized it. Jorge, I think someone messed up with the candles, Vlad reported to the man in the dining area on the fourth floor where he was having breakfast. The first floor served as the lobby, offering drinks and food. The second and third floors catered to customers and prostitutes, while the fourth floor housed the living quarters for the prostitutes and employees. It wasn't 7 minutes, Vlad reiterated. Is that so? Jorge, a man with a massive build, responded casually, seemingly unconcerned about Vlad's report. It wasn't 7 minutes, Vlad emphasized once more. Yeah, that's right. That's what you said, Jorge acknowledged, unfazed. On Jorge's breakfast plate lay fried sausages, black pudding, hash browns, and white bread. His breakfast was always the same, reflecting his unwavering nature. Do you understand what I'm saying? Someone put candles in our meal, Vlad pressed. No, who dared to do that? Jorge responded incredulously. The black-haired woman preparing breakfast in front of Jorge interrupted with a mischievous smile. We have to find out who did it, she suggested. Of course we have to find out, Jorge agreed. Should I look for it? She inquired. You look for it, Jorge replied. What should I look for? She pressed for clarification. To be honest, I've already found it, Jorge admitted. Who is it? Vlad turned his attention to Marcella, the owner of Rose's Smiles. Marcella possessed exceptional beauty, ranked among the top 5 in Shawara, despite being in her mid-30s. She maintained her allure with the grace of a voluptuous lady and the innocence of a young girl. It's me. I messed up with the candles. I wanted to suck some honey easily from drunk people, Marcella confessed, her words flowing naturally from her plump red lips that held a seductive allure. Vlad lowered his head, disbelief evident in his posture. I just screwed over that stupid guy, he muttered under his breath. The owner spoke, but what could the employee say? If I had put the candle on the railing instead of the corridor floor, it would have caused a commotion, Vlad reasoned. He had deliberately placed it on the floor just in case. If he hadn't done so, all the onlookers on the first floor would have realized that the candle did not last for 7 minutes. Having heard the madam's explanation, Vlad weakly rose from his seat. Where are you going? Eat and then leave, the madam urged. I'll be back in a moment, Vlad replied. Why? She inquired. I'll go and give a blanket to the guy I just threw out, Vlad explained. You are so kind, the madam exclaimed. With hesitant steps, Vlad walked down the stairs. Though he felt no remorse for bashing an innocent man's head, he believed it was his duty as a human being to do the bare minimum. In the dimly lit back alley, Vlad descended to the first floor, feeling the weight of exhaustion upon him. However, before he could make his way further, a voice pierced through the shadows. Hey, my proud junior, called out a man, grabbing Vlad's arm. Don't touch me, I'm tired today, Vlad retorted, pulling away from the man. I heard you did something yesterday, right? As expected of my proud junior, the man continued, undeterred. The man, Burley, belonged to the Jorge family, a name that held sway in the alley. You got some tips while selling candles yesterday, right? We need some money right now, Burley pressed on, his tone insistent. Vlad's gaze finally settled on the members of the Jorge family. Screw off, Vlad responded firmly. No, don't say that. Just listen to me. We're not scumbags who forcibly take money from our juniors, Burley insisted, draping his arm around Vlad's shoulder. What kind of nonsense is this? Vlad questioned, skeptical. It's about giving and receiving. If you give us money, we'll give you something in return. That's what I mean, Burley explained. What is that? Vlad inquired, his curiosity piqued. Burley's eyes narrowed, a glimmer of realization dawning upon him. Come with me, he said, leading Vlad away into the shadows of the alley. As Burley gestured with his chin, the other members of the Jorge family made way for them. It's in the basement, Burley directed, leading Vlad down into the depths of Rose's Smiles. The basement served as a crucial space for operating the establishment, storing alcohol and food supplies. It was under the management of Burley, who held considerable authority within the Jorge family. In essence, the basement belonged to Burley. What the hell? Vlad muttered, taking in the scene before him. How is it? A familiar face, isn't it? Burley grinned, indicating towards something behind him. Vlad, being the youngest in the Jorge family, required Burley's permission to access items from this place. How about this? I'll give it to you for just 40 silver. It's really cheap. Where else can you find such a generous senior? Burley proposed, his tone sly. As Vlad considered the offer, he noticed something stirring behind Burley. It was a child with dark skin, blood dripping from his forehead, casting a pitiful gaze towards Vlad. He was pickpocketing. Burley's voice came from behind Vlad, who appeared visibly frustrated. He was awkward, foolish, and he had no skill. That's why he got caught, Burley continued, assessing the situation with a smirk. Ignoring Burley's remarks, Vlad focused on examining the condition of the child writhing on the ground. "Did you cut his fingers?" Vlad inquired. "No," Burley replied. "Did you cut his ankle?" "No." Burley observed Vlad's concern for the young pickpocket, confident that his junior would comply and hand over the silver coins. "It's really fresh. I just gave it a little touch. You can eat it raw if you want," Burley remarked, a wicked grin spreading across his face. The members of the Jorge family behind them burst into laughter, finding Burley's words amusing. "Fine," Vlad sighed, retrieving the glittering silver coins from his pocket. "As expected, I was sure my proud junior would agree to the deal," Burley remarked, pleased. "Next time, don't call me, just kill him," Vlad suggested. "Why do you say that? We're gang members, not murderers," Burley retorted. "The bastards who scam their own family members," Vlad muttered bitterly, but his words were met with laughter from the Jorge family members. As the eldest brothers announced their departure for a drink, Vlad couldn't resist a sharp retort. "Go and catch a venereal disease." "Indeed, the rising star. Vlad's club is spicy, and his tongue is sharp," another member chimed in. "I don't know if his middle club is spicy too," someone added, eliciting further laughter from the group. Despite his youth, Vlad's presence was unmistakable, much like a sharp awl protruding from a pocket. Surviving in the slums alone was not just an accomplishment for Vlad. He had also established authority over the young vagabonds in the alleyways, drawing the attention of various gangs operating within the area. To those young vagabonds who had not yet received the gang's call, Vlad was an object of admiration. He was also a prime recruitment target for gangs seeking talented individuals. This was the value embodied by 16-year-old Vlad. "Get up before I kill you," Vlad commanded, tapping the bound boy with his foot. The bound boy groaned in response, rolling on the ground and struggling to stand up after Vlad's stern warning. "Sorry, Vlad. I was trying to slip away in moderation," the boy confessed, his tone reflecting genuine remorse. Vlad couldn't discern whether the apology was for attempting to pickpocket or for being caught, but he sensed the sincerity in the boy's words. "I'm really pissed," Vlad muttered, delivering a firm slap to the back of the boy's head before rubbing his eyes wearily. "5 gold is slipping further away," he lamented. "Do you need money? Then borrow from the one-armed jack," the boy suggested. "I'd rather eat rat poison than borrow from that guy," Vlad retorted, dismissing the idea of borrowing from another local boss. "Did you break any bones?" Vlad inquired, showing concern. "No," the boy replied. "Then get out of here," Vlad ordered. "Are you going to tell my brother?" the boy asked, fear evident in his voice. "I'll get 40 silver from your brother," Vlad threatened. "No, Vlad, please," the boy pleaded. "Then your brother will give me 40 silver, and you'll get at least 400 beatings, you idiot," Vlad warned sternly. The young boy flashed a fearful smile, already foreseeing his fate under Vlad's unwavering gaze. "Next time, I won't get caught," the boy nervously assured. "Maybe you're not improving because you're just plain stupid," Vlad retorted, his expression darkening. With a heavy heart, Vlad escorted the young pickpocket out of the shop. As the boy disappeared into the alley, Vlad's gaze shifted to Rosa's smiles. Though the establishment appeared serene, devoid of flashy lights, Vlad felt an overwhelming need for solace. Today had been particularly harsh for Vlad. Dealing ruthlessly with an innocent customer, learning about Madame's deceit, and having his money taken by senior members left him drained. Typically, he would seek solace inside Rosa's smiles and catch some sleep. However, today, he chose to walk in the opposite direction, yearning for the warmth of the bright sunshine. As he strode away, the thick stench of filth enveloped him, a constant reminder of the rough environment he navigated every day. The night of the whores, Horsch, the money bug, one-armed Jack, the swine slaughterer, Black Bear, the gambling den's dice, and the whale hunter, Captain Hoover. These 5 ruled over Shawara's slums. "So why did you come to see me?" asked Harvin, a member of Captain Hoover's family, as Vlad approached. "You got some money?" Vlad cut straight to the chase. "The first thing you say as soon as we see each other after a long time is, 'Give me money?'" Harvin raised an eyebrow. "I just need 5 gold, Vlad pleaded. "Can I really get the money back if I lend it to someone who's already been robbed?" Harvin shook his head disapprovingly. "You have no credibility." Harvin, with his unremarkable brown hair, had an equally strong presence compared to Vlad's flashy blonde locks. "You're really something too. How can you ask a disabled guy who can't even stand up for money?" Harvin remarked, his tone tinged with a hint of sarcasm. The room they were in was small, barely spacious enough for 2 people. Yet despite his physical limitations and reliance on a cane, Harvin effortlessly reached for a bottle in the cupboard with his foot and poured a drink with his 3-fingered left hand. "Drink this and get out. Your Hyung is busy," Harvin instructed, offering Vlad a bottle. "Is it okay to drink this?" Vlad asked cautiously. Vlad uncorked the bottle, recoiling at the pungent odor wafting from the alcohol. "It's Captain Hoover's masterpiece, Captain Q. It's a drink that kills 3 when 2 people drink it," Harvin explained, a wry grin forming on his lips. "Well, then I can use it as poison later," Vlad replied, abandoning any thoughts of imbibing the dubious concoction. He settled in front of Harvin, observing his companion as he worked. The room was small, dominated by a nondescript desk cluttered with stacks of papers covered in dense rows of numbers and letters. Harvin sifted through them tirelessly. "Even though I can read and write, I don't know what's written there," Vlad remarked, gesturing toward the papers. "That's something I taught you too," Harvin responded with a hint of amusement. "I can read numbers at least," Vlad grumbled. "And that's something I taught you as well." Harvin chuckled softly, his eyes twinkling with fondness as he listened to Vlad's complaints. Harvin played the role of a savior in the lives of both Zemina and Vlad. During their childhood days spent rolling around in the back alleys, Harvin shared his blanket with them. Without his warmth, Zemina and Vlad might have succumbed to the cold long ago. Likewise, it was Harvin's stolen bread that staved off starvation for the trio. "But that kid was lucky. They set pickpockets and cut them here and there like they did to you," Vlad remarked, reflecting on their past. After talking about the past for a while, Harvin chuckled, but unconsciously stared at the wall. It was a small room. Amidst the dust and the smell of paper, there was another scent that you could feel if you concentrated. It was the scent of a river. Captain Hoover, who primarily engaged in smuggling, had his base by the riverside, and beyond the wall that Harvin was looking at, there was the river that fed Shawara, the city. A wide blue river that could take you anywhere. Unlike Harvin, who was tied up here. "Well, I feel like I won't be able to get out of here until I die, just like Zemina won't grow up until she dies," Harvin remarked, his tone tinged with resignation. Vlad fell silent, his heart heavy with the truth in Harvin's words. "Well, Vlad, there's something I wanted to tell you," Harvin continued. "Yeah?" Vlad responded, eager to hear what Harvin had to say. Harvin was known for his sharp intellect. Despite his physical limitations, he had taught himself how to read and understand numbers, recognizing that survival in the slums required more than mere physical strength. It was this sharp mind that had enabled him to secure a job despite his disability, and it was this same sharpness that allowed him to comprehend the inner workings of Shawara, even from within the confines of their cramped room, as evidenced by the documents scattered about, filled with letters and numbers. "Be careful," were Harvin's parting words to Vlad as he rose from his seat, clutching the bottle. But warnings held little sway in a world where survival meant taking from others, where every acquisition came at the expense of someone else's pain. "Hey kid, where's your boss?" A looming shadow cast itself over Vlad, who was occupied with selling candles. The figure before him was imposing, yet its left arm bore a peculiar bend, replaced by a hook in place of a hand. Recognizing the speaker, Vlad's surprise was palpable as he swallowed hard. "I'm just a candle seller, so I don't know that much," Vlad responded, assessing the situation with his characteristic boldness. A henchman beside one-armed Jack forcefully slammed Vlad's desk at the same moment he spoke. "Where is your boss, you little bastard?" the henchman demanded, adding pressure to the situation. As the man shouted, colorful rose candles scattered through the air, catching the attention of everyone in the vicinity of Rose's smiles. The sudden shift in atmosphere prompted an uneasy silence to descend, casting a palpable tension over the area. Witnessing the scene, the red-haired girl quickly covered her mouth with both hands and hurried up to the 4th floor. Meanwhile, amid the frozen stillness, one person moved with a natural ease, unfazed by the imposing presence of much larger men. "All the candles are wasted. These are expensive, you know," Vlad remarked, unimpressed by the chaos unfolding around them. "This crazy bastard!" As one-armed Jack's henchman watched Vlad calmly pick up the fallen candles, his face flushed with anger at the boy's apparent disregard for his warning. But Vlad didn't stop there. With a light nudge, Vlad prompted the man, who was barely containing his fury, to move his foot. "Hey, Hyung, mind moving your foot?" he remarked casually. "This son of a bitch." Unable to tolerate Vlad's provocation any longer, the man lashed out, attempting to kick the boy beneath his feet. Combat, akin to a condensed version of warfare, involved strategic planning, calculated maneuvers, and decisive actions that could ensure triumph. Vlad was well aware of this principle. Despite the menacing aura surrounding the scene, Vlad appeared poised and prepared. With lightning speed, he unsheathed his club and ruthlessly targeted the man's ankle, striking without a moment's hesitation. It was evident that Vlad had orchestrated every move with precision and intent from the outset. The man's agonized cries echoed through the corridor as pain surged through his body. Caught off guard by the unexpected assault, he stumbled, presenting Vlad with an opportunity he swiftly seized. With a fierce determination gleaming in his blue eyes, Vlad sprang into action with the agility of a predatory beast. In one fluid motion, he rose to his feet and swung his club at the man's chin, sending his teeth scattering like broken pearls. Every move was calculated, every strike precise. As the man recoiled from the blow, Vlad followed up with a swift roundhouse kick to the chest, creating a safe distance between them while showcasing his exceptional agility. With a triumphant shout, Vlad asserted his dominance, hurling his club with pinpoint accuracy. It found its mark on the man's forehead, embedding itself firmly as he crumpled to the ground, defeated. It was a bold and decisive maneuver, executed with flawless precision. In a mere moment, the imposing figure of the burly man crumbled like a decaying tree, rendered powerless by Vlad's swift and relentless assault. The henchmen of one-armed Jack stood frozen, mouths agape, unable to react swiftly to their fallen comrade. The sudden and unexpected display of violence had caught them off guard, leaving them momentarily immobilized. Amidst the stunned silence, Vlad stood tall, his blonde hair framing his fierce gaze as he controlled his breathing. In this confrontation, he was the sole victor, while his opponent lay defeated at his feet. In the unforgiving world of the back alley, the law remained unchanged. The winner stood triumphant, while the loser remained fallen. The henchmen of one-armed Jack, momentarily stunned by the sudden turn of events, finally regained their composure. In the span of a breath, the entire incident had unfolded before them. "Damn him! Who does he think he is?" Now fully comprehending the situation, the enraged men began to charge at Vlad. "Hold." Their advance halted abruptly at the command, as if they were obediently trained animals responding to a stern voice. "I quite like this fellow." Despite his subordinate's defeat without a single blow landed, one-armed Jack clapped his hands in delight, the sound echoing faintly against the cold metal of his hook. "Forgive me if I can't make much noise with just one hand. I don't discriminate against those with disabilities." Laughter erupted from one-armed Jack as he observed the audacious young gang member standing defiantly before him. "We'll meet again, my friend." Vlad recognized the line he was treading upon, knowing it marked the limit of one-armed Jack's tolerance. To cross it would be to challenge his authority, a move fraught with dire consequences. Moneybug, what's happening here? Thankfully, a robust figure descended the stairs at that critical moment. Clad in metaphorical armor, he strode down like a knight leading his loyal entourage. The Knight of the Whores, Jorge. His every step exuded authority, contrasting sharply with his usual demeanor. Had I known you were coming, I would have prepared some meat for you. Bosses squared off against each other, their respective organizations poised for confrontation in a tense standoff. The knight stationed at Rose's Smiles greeted the unexpected visitor with a sly chuckle. Well, you see, we're not that close, One-Armed Jack responded, scratching his head with his hooked appendage. Though they exchanged laughs, both bosses harbored their own agendas beneath the surface. As guests observed the scene with rapt attention, seemingly more intrigued by the spectacle than the scantily clad women around them, the bosses decided to move upstairs. Since we have guests, why don't we head upstairs for now? Suggested Jorge. Do you have meat? Inquired One-Armed Jack. Marcella never disappoints her guests, assured Jorge, prompting Jack's compliance. Even as they ascended to the fourth floor, the heart of the Jorge organization, One-Armed Jack's actions remained audacious. This was the power dynamic of those who controlled Shawara's back alleys. I quite like that kid. What do you think? Jack gestured towards Vlad, who was catching his breath. One of Jack's henchmen still lay on the ground nearby. He's a rising star in our organization, acknowledged Jorge. Who did I take in instead of him last year? I don't even remember it, so I guess he passed away early. As Jorge ascended the stairs alongside One-Armed Jack, he gave Vlad a knowing wink. It was a sign that the boy had effectively fulfilled his duty as the guardian of Rose's Smiles. I almost bit the dust there, Vlad muttered, only relaxing once he caught Jorge's signal. He approached the fallen henchman on the ground and tapped him lightly. Hyung-si, the candles for the second floor are 20 silver, and the candles for the third floor are 30 silver. You'll have to pay for the ones you broke, Vlad informed sternly. Ugh, groaned the fallen henchman. Don't pretend to be asleep. Pay up before I throw another club at you, Vlad threatened, letting out a sigh at the groans of the injured man. Oh my, Vlad, look at these injuries, remarked one of the women, concern evident in her voice. You should really take care of these wounds beforehand, another chimed in. That's right. If they get infected, it'll be a big problem. Luckily, I have some medicine for wounds, added a third woman, offering assistance. It was a short battle, but Vlad found himself being attended to by the women who were checking for any possible injuries. Why are they suddenly acting like this? Vlad wondered aloud as the women gathered around him. Oh dear, look at what she's saying. We were so worried about you, you know? One of the women responded emotionally. How much have we fed and taken care of you all this time? It hurts to hear you say that, Vlad, another woman added, expressing her concern. The prostitutes surrounding Vlad feigned annoyance, though inwardly they were pleased. For women whose livelihoods depended on the presence of a strong man, having someone like Vlad nearby was a boon. And Vlad wasn't just strong, he was young and showed great promise. Look at his muscles. Since when did you get this big? You're quite the man now. Could you all please leave? Vlad interjected, attempting to disperse the women. Especially when the man in question was as handsome as Vlad, with his blonde hair and piercing blue eyes, traits that seemed to be favored by many. Having proven his mettle in the recent fight, Vlad appeared even more enticing to the prostitutes. Despite Vlad's attempts to shoo them away with harsh words, his rebellious demeanor only served to enhance his appeal in the eyes of the women. Despite his tough exterior, Vlad was known for his kindness towards women. Amidst the chaos, a young girl pushed her way through the crowd of prostitutes. Jorge is calling you. You idiot, she added. Don't curse, Vlad chided gently. As Vlad realized Zemina's distress due to his inappropriate reaction, he decided to rise from his seat. At that moment, Jorge's call took precedence over addressing Zemina's scolding. Ascending the staircase that led through Rose's Smile, Vlad noticed One-Armed Jack and his associates descending. Hey, Rising Star, One-Armed Jack called out. Yes? Vlad responded respectfully, acknowledging the older man's authority. I like you. If you ever lose your job, come work for me, One-Armed Jack said, tapping Vlad's head playfully with his hook. They offer good benefits here too. They give me food, money, and even a place to sleep, Vlad replied, defending his current position. We do that too, One-Armed Jack retorted with a smile as he continued past Vlad. Oh, by the way, he added, prompting Vlad's attention. After ensuring that One-Armed Jack had left the premises, Vlad carefully stowed away the gold coins in his pocket before swiftly ascending the stairs to the 4th floor, where Jorge awaited him. Burley and other members of their group were also present, lined up beside Jorge. Despite the usual atmosphere of joviality and the aroma of food that typically permeated the 4th floor, an eerie silence blanketed the room as Vlad entered. Jorge, I'm here, Vlad announced upon his arrival. Ah, have a seat, Jorge replied, gesturing for Vlad to take a seat. Marcella stood before Jorge, overseeing the spread of grilled meat before them. Whether it was due to Jack's recent departure or for some other reason, there was an abundance of food laid out on the table. What did Jack say? Jorge inquired, addressing Vlad. Instead of addressing Vlad's inquiry directly, Jorge extended a dagger towards him, one that he had just used to carve the meat. What's this? Are you giving me a dagger now? Vlad questioned, surprised by the unexpected gesture. Yep, take it. I just used it and it's still good, Jorge replied casually. Vlad had yet to possess a dagger. As the youngest member of the Jorge family, he hadn't earned the privilege of wielding one. Wow, Vlad marveled at the weapon before him. Though perhaps not as grand as the swords adorning the blacksmith shop, the dagger was longer than any he had handled before. I wanted to give it to you anyway, but I'm giving it to you a bit earlier because of the circumstances, Jorge explained. Thank you. Vlad expressed his gratitude, recognizing the significance of the gift. It wasn't merely a tool, it symbolized trust and approval from the boss. Keep it with you at all times from now on. You can ask Burley for the dagger's sheath, Jorge instructed. Got it, Vlad acknowledged, accepting the dagger with enthusiasm. Vlad? Jorge called out, his tone grave. Yes, Vlad responded, sensing the weight of the moment. Always keep it on you, Jorge emphasized. Yes, Vlad affirmed, understanding the seriousness of the directive. Jorge's expression bore an unusual solemnity, casting a heavy atmosphere over the room. All right, Vlad reassured, meeting Jorge's gaze with determination. The organization members wore subtle expressions of concern, hinting at the gravity of the situation. I will always keep it with me, Vlad promised, grasping the significance of the dagger's bestowal. It was evident to Vlad that the conversation between Jorge and One-Armed Jack had dire implications for their organization. In a desolate corner of the city's back alleys stood an empty lot, where a boy toiled under the scorching sun, wielding a wooden stick with fervor. Though the space was modest and unremarkable, it held profound significance for Vlad. It marked his very first acquisition through sheer determination and effort. From birth, Vlad had known little of possessions, but this lot stood as a testament to his resilience and hard work. In years past, this lot had been a sanctuary for Vlad, Zemina, and Harvin, a place of refuge and solace amidst the harsh realities of life. As Vlad surveyed the now collapsed hut that once sheltered them, a wave of nostalgia washed over him. Though the structure lay in ruins, its dilapidated state spoke volumes of the memories it held. With a solemn gaze, Vlad reflected on the transient nature of all things. The hut, like everything with form, was fated to crumble eventually. Yet, despite its decrepit appearance, Vlad harbored no bitterness. Instead, he chose to cherish the memories it housed, acknowledging that he would never return to this place again. Once more, Vlad redirected his focus to the tip of the stick, his mind retracing the fundamental lessons imparted to him by Jorge. Despite the chill of winter permeating the air, beads of sweat dotted the boy's back, testament to his unwavering dedication and determination. Vlad embodied a unique blend of resilience and curiosity, a quality akin to a hedgehog armed with the thorns of pride, yet fueled by an unquenchable thirst for knowledge. It was Harvin who had illuminated the path for Vlad, demonstrating through his own example the power of self-education. Despite his physical limitations, a result of severed fingers and impaired mobility, Harvin had honed his intellect to mastery, leveraging his sharp mind to secure employment under Captain Hoover. In reflecting upon Harvin's journey, Vlad recognized the pivotal role that education played in determining one's fate. Had Harvin neglected his pursuit of knowledge, he might have found himself relegated to a life of destitution, reduced to begging on the streets. Immersed in the rare experience of self-improvement and the pursuit of knowledge, Vlad found himself swinging a wooden stick in the solitude of an empty lot, a routine he followed diligently after completing his daily tasks. Yet, despite the tranquility of the surroundings, Vlad's brow furrowed with frustration as beads of sweat trickled down his face. With each swing, his expression contorted in discomfort. "Damn it! Why does this always happen when I'm practicing?" Vlad muttered, though there was no one present to hear his words, save for the echoing silence of the vacant lot. In the midst of his solitary training, an unfamiliar voice pierced through the quietude, intruding upon Vlad's concentration. "You should narrow the angle of your elbow when you strike down, boy." The voice persisted, relentless in its guidance or interference. Vlad couldn't discern which, as it continued to echo inside his head, despite his attempts to block it out. "I should use the money I earned to buy some holy water," Vlad muttered, his confusion mounting in the face of the persistent voice. "Why did lightning have to strike me back then?" Frustration and anger surged within Vlad as he resumed swinging the wooden stick with renewed vigor. For a young boy accustomed to the relentless struggle for survival, the current predicament ignited a fiery desire to release his pent-up emotions. The voices in Vlad's head had first appeared about a month ago, following a sudden and inexplicable event. As he traversed the back alleys, a bolt of lightning unexpectedly struck him, casting him into a bewildering state of shock. This lightning, however, was not the typical bright flash of energy. It was black, an ominous and unsettling occurrence that left a mark on Vlad, both physically and mentally. The peculiar incident quickly became the subject of gossip and speculation among the residents of the back alleys. Whispers spread like wildfire, painting Vlad as a victim of possession by some malevolent force. Determined to dispel these rumors and rid himself of the unsettling voices in his head, Vlad turned to the church, offering what little money he had and lending his aid to the church's endeavors in a bid to prove his innocence and seek resolution. But despite his efforts, the haunting voices persisted, gnawing at his sanity and frustrating his attempts to find peace. With each passing day, Vlad's patience wore thin, his frustration mounting as he grappled with the seemingly insurmountable challenge before him. However, Vlad couldn't risk divulging the unsettling truth to the church. As an alley boy, he knew all too well the harsh realities that awaited those deemed weak or afflicted. The mere mention of voices in his head could lead to dire consequences, punishment, or even being condemned to the flames of a stake. No, he couldn't allow himself to fall victim to such a fate. In a world that showed no mercy to the vulnerable, Vlad had learned to guard his secrets closely, lest they be turned against him. "Humph," Vlad grunted, his frustration simmering beneath the surface. Gradually, the voice that had plagued him fell silent, perhaps sensing his resolve to ignore it. "Ignore it," he muttered to himself, recalling Zemina's cautionary words. "The less attention I give it, the better." With a deep breath, Vlad pushed aside his inner turmoil and refocused his thoughts. He had more pressing matters to attend to. Jorge's summons could not be ignored. Unlike the children of nobility who could afford the luxury of endless practice, Vlad, a denizen of the back alleys, couldn't indulge in such freedoms. He worked daily to stave off hunger, ensuring he wouldn't go without food for 2 days in a row. It was time to abandon his aspirations temporarily and face the harsh realities of his existence. Yet, before heeding Zemina's summons, Vlad committed to one final swing. He sighed, reminding himself, Always make the last one your best. Concentrating all his mental and physical strength, Vlad prepared for the strike. Narrow it! The voice intruded once more as he aimed to perfect his final effort. In that instant, a penetrating voice reverberated in his mind, causing Vlad to flinch and, without thinking, adjust the angle of his elbow. With a resounding boom, he felt the air rip and the wooden stick cut through it with unprecedented force. Wow! Escaped from Zemina, who was watching him intently, genuinely taken aback by the precision of his strike. Damn it, Vlad conceded internally. He could no longer deny the effectiveness of narrowing his elbow's angle. The mysterious presence in his mind evidently possessed a profound understanding of swordsmanship. Whereas previously, Vlad had been merely flailing the stick around, the maneuver he had just performed, guided by that voice, was an authentic and skilled execution of a sword technique. Although it was termed an alley, it was unmistakably a fragment of the city. Shuara City's vast expanse meant that its labyrinth of back alleys was equally sprawling, giving rise to a vibrant downtown area nestled within these alleys. This downtown became the focal point for the territories of 5 bosses who reigned over the back alleys. Consequently, members of each faction tended to avoid causing disruptions or drawing undue attention in this sector. Typically, the area buzzed with the chatter of drinkers and the calls of merchants. However, this was not the current situation. Vlad and Zemina made their way through a bustling back alley, a path they often traversed amidst light-hearted banter and conversation. This time, however, silence enveloped them, an unusual companion for their journey. "It's too quiet," one of them remarked, a reflection of the shared sentiment. A silent acknowledgement passed between them as Vlad surveyed the downtown shops, noting an unusual calm. Several establishments were shuttered, and even those that remained open had retracted their stalls, poised for imminent closure. "It looks like everyone's bracing for a significant uproar this time," they concluded, sensing the tension in the air. In the past, skirmishes between gang members were commonplace, yet it had been quite some time since the air had been charged with such foreboding anticipation. The merchants in the downtown area seemed to brace themselves for an impending tempest. "Aren't you worried at all?" Zemina inquired, her gaze fixed on Vlad as he responded with a nonchalance that belied the gravity of the situation. Vlad was likely to find himself on the front lines of the looming conflict. While Zemina maintained a composed exterior, internally, she was consumed by anxiety over the thought that Vlad, with whom she had shared a deep bond for years, was on the cusp of being engulfed by the brutal tides of violence. To her, Vlad was more than a friend. He was akin to family, one of the precious few she could truly depend on. "Don't wander off by yourself for the time being. Actually, it might be wiser if you just stay inside the shop." Yet Vlad did not respond to Zemina's concern. His attention was elsewhere, fixed on a group of men at the far end of the downtown area, observing them with keen interest. Among them was a subordinate of One-Armed Jack, someone Vlad had previously bested, glaring at them with a mix of surprise and hostility. "All right," Zemina said, deliberately turning her back to Vlad, choosing to ignore the tense standoff unfolding between him and the onlooker. This had always been their dynamic. Vlad never shied away from confronting danger if it meant safeguarding her. Zemina silently appreciated Vlad's protective stance, though she had never expressed her gratitude openly. Now, however, she contemplated voicing the sentiments she had held close to her heart, fearing it might soon become too late. As they navigated the downtown, preoccupied with their respective thoughts, Vlad and Zemina eventually reached Rose's Smiles. Upon entering, they noticed the staff in the lobby casting brief glances their way, before quickly returning to their hushed conversations. Why is everyone just sitting around? Isn't it time for the final preparations before opening? Vlad's question hung in the air unanswered. Normally, the staff would be bustling about, arranging furniture, while the women applied their makeup. Instead, they were clustered in small groups, whispering among themselves, mirroring the tense atmosphere from outside. "This is frustrating," Vlad muttered, feeling the tension that had infiltrated the establishment. "Has a war erupted or what?" He was bewildered by the sight, continuing his way up to the 4th floor to meet Jorge, his expression turning stony as he observed the staff huddled together fearfully. With his inherently bold nature, Vlad found it hard to relate to the cautiousness displayed by those around him in the face of potential crisis. Upon his arrival at the 4th floor, Vlad was greeted by the familiar sight of Jorge preparing food, a scene that brought him a sense of comfort. Jorge, much like Vlad, was not one for the subtler tasks. "You wanted to see me?" Vlad inquired as he entered the room. "Yes. From today, you'll stop selling candles," Jorge directed, a statement that brought a smirk to Vlad's face. The task of selling candles had never quite aligned with Vlad's self-image, and he was visibly pleased with the change. "What will I be doing instead? Collecting payments from the shops, or perhaps patrolling the neighborhood?" Vlad asked, eager to take on a new role. Jorge pondered the question for a moment, considering the options. Jorge's smile widened as he observed Vlad's determined expression. In the boy, he saw the makings of a leader, unyielding even in the face of daunting tasks. If Jorge still held the title of knight, he would have gladly taken Vlad under his wing as a squire. "We've received word that outsider Jack is recruiting mercenaries from afar, individuals with a background akin to mine," Jorge explained, noting the seriousness of the situation. "Similar to you, Jorge?" Vlad inquired, his curiosity piqued. Jorge nodded, a tinge of bitterness in his expression. He drained the last of his beer, the liquid trickling down his weathered beard. "That bastard seems to be genuinely serious this time," he remarked, his tone tinged with concern. Vlad absorbed Jorge's words with a thoughtful expression, acknowledging the significance of his insights. "One-armed Jack, the moneylender," Vlad mused, recalling the influential figure in the private loan business who commanded a formidable force in the back alleys. Despite his wealth and power, Jack remained wary of Jorge, recognizing the former knight's formidable skills. Jorge's reputation as a skilled fighter posed a significant threat to Jack's dominance. After all, as Jorge often emphasized, sheer numbers alone couldn't match the prowess of a skilled individual. True talent was not easily swayed by wealth or power, especially in the realm of back-alley bosses. Former knight Jorge had become an immovable obstacle for one-armed Jack, their rivalry characterized by Jack's reliance on sheer numbers contrasted with Jorge's self-reliance. Their uneasy equilibrium depended on maintaining their respective spheres of influence without encroaching on each other's territory. However, this delicate balance would shift if Jack managed to recruit a swordsman capable of challenging Jorge's dominance. "If that happens, we'll be at a disadvantage. That's where you come in," Jorge explained, catching Vlad off guard with the sudden mention of his name. "Me?" Vlad echoed, his eyes widening in surprise. "Yes, you. Only you, the former child prodigy of our organization, can handle this," Jorge affirmed with a smile. As the boss of the organization, Jorge saw potential in Vlad and entrusted him with his first mission. Despite the weight of the responsibility, Vlad remained composed, showing no sign of tension or fear. For Jorge, nurturing young talent like Vlad was always a gratifying endeavor. The man clad in armor was sitting on a rock and sharpening his sword. His sword was covered in red blood, as if he had caught a passing monster. "You can't fool your age. The winter air is so cold that I can feel it in my bones." He couldn't be called old, but the scars and wrinkles etched on his face were sufficient to hint at the years and environment he had endured. The man stopped wiping the blood off his sword and focused on the sound he heard. White breath coming from man's mouth scattered in all directions. "It's quite convincing." He could hear a faint sound from afar. It was the chirping of a cuckoo. A cuckoo was chirping in between the strangely withered trees along the road. "Are you either stupid or being stupid on purpose?" The middle-aged man licked his lips and confirmed that there was no one around, then walked off the road and headed toward the direction where he heard the cuckoo's chirping. As the man approached, the cuckoo remained in place, its chirps continuing as though attempting to communicate its presence. "I don't know who you are, but come out. I am here now." the man in armor spoke quietly into the empty forest. "Are you Sir Stanga?" A figure cloaked in a hood emerged from the seemingly vacant woods. "Yes, it's me, Stanga," the newcomer confirmed. Annoyance flickered across Stanga's face as he regarded the person before him. "So, you're the one called Vlad?" he inquired. "Yes," came the reply. As Vlad pushed back his hood, Stanga observed him with a curious gaze. "I heard the guide was from the back alleys, but you have blonde hair and blue eyes. Anyone would think you're from a noble family," Stanga remarked. "Here's a letter from my boss," Vlad replied, producing the letter. Frowning at Stanga's comment, Vlad watched as Stanga slowly perused the letter, his scars contorting strangely. Vlad struggled to decipher Stanga's expression, unsure if he was smiling or growing angry. "Very well. My esteemed senior is telling me to follow the kid before me," Stanga finally acknowledged. "That's right," Vlad affirmed. He was an unpredictable man. Vlad, born in the back alleys, had honed a keen sense for reading people, yet he found himself unable to predict Stanga's nature. "Follow me," Vlad commanded. As Vlad scrutinized Stanga, the latter also assessed the young boy before him. Intentionally fostering a rough atmosphere, Stanga observed that the blonde youth remained unfazed by his demeanor. "Jorge might like this kid," he mused silently. Though he couldn't ascertain Vlad's true skill, the boy appeared, at the very least, worthy of nurturing. However, Stanga was now not a knight, but simply a traveler aiming to reach his destination swiftly. "I should teach him a lesson here," he thought to himself. Feeling the need to clear the path ahead comfortably, he considered the necessity of imparting some wisdom to the boy obstructing his way. "Ha! It seems like you are quite foolish. I wonder if you can guide me properly," Stanga remarked. "I am good enough to give you directions," Vlad retorted. "I don't think so," Stanga countered with a deep smile, observing Vlad's evident displeasure. "How can a guy who mimics the sound of summer migratory birds in the middle of winter be smart?" Vlad paused, momentarily taken aback. "Ah." Vlad's expression soured as he listened to Stanga's words. "If you even hint that this isn't the right way while we're on our journey, I'll kill you, you idiot," Stanga warned. Sensing success, Stanga smiled, observing Vlad's bewildered expression. Knight. A word that could quicken the pulse of a back alley boy. A title reserved for those with qualifications, honor, and proven worth. And such a person stood right beside Vlad. "Why do you keep glancing at me?" Stanga questioned. "Do you grow weary if I keep my gaze on you?" Vlad countered. "Don't lose the way," Stanga reminded him. "Don't worry. I know this path even with my eyes closed," Vlad assured. "Then close your eyes," Stanga suggested. "It's just an expression of familiarity," Vlad explained. Despite the jab he had just received, Vlad found himself unable to tear his gaze away from Stanga. Though Vlad knew Jorge was a former knight, his demeanor resembled more that of a leader of an organization than a knight. However, Stanga, standing beside him, still embodied the image of the knight Vlad had always dreamed of becoming. The presence of a longsword, a leather breastplate, firmly clad gauntlets, and the distinct clinking of armor filled the space. "Is this your first encounter with a retired knight? Why the fixed gaze?" Stanga inquired. "Not at such proximity before," Vlad replied. "You truly are a country bumpkin," Stanga remarked. "Where do you hail from?" Vlad asked. "Dakia," Stanga responded. "A wholly rural locale," Vlad noted. Stanga smiled grimly as he regarded Vlad, who persisted despite the lesson Stanga had just imparted. "You better not lose your way. I'll finish you off in one blow if you do," Stanga warned. "We will be camping here tonight," Vlad announced. "Do city folks usually have this much attitude?" Stanga grumbled, though he concurred with Vlad's decision to camp. Navigating the forest while avoiding detection, the two moved swiftly as the sun dipped below the horizon. "You're quite skilled, aren't you?" "For a city person, I mean," Stanga remarked. "I haven't had a proper home to call my own," Vlad replied. Stanga smiled as he observed Vlad deftly arranging the campsite. "Are you even making a spot for me too?" Stanga asked. "Because you're Jorge's guest," Vlad explained. Stanga murmured. Before long, Vlad had set up a spot and began gathering firewood. "Don't you have anything to eat?" Stanga inquired. "I have mine," Vlad replied. "What about me?" Stanga pressed. "He didn't pack me anymore," Vlad admitted. Stanga sighed, reluctantly retrieving the jerky he had packed. Its modest appearance contrasted sharply with what one might expect from a knight in shining armor. Vlad suspended the jerky over the fire as it crackled to life. "You're lighting a fire even though we're supposed to be moving covertly?" Stanga questioned. "That's why I took a longer route to get here. Even if there are people nearby, it's fine as long as they don't realize I'm escorting a knight, sir," Vlad explained. This implied that discovery of their actions was acceptable as long as their true purpose remained concealed. "It seems like my senior is in a difficult position," Stanga inferred from Vlad's words. "We hide the sword when we have to stab someone," Vlad remarked cryptically, offering no further explanation but silently acknowledging Stanga's observation. "In the worst-case scenario, it's acceptable if we're detected, as long as we make it back unscathed," Stanga remarked. Experiencing the acute instincts of a knight for the first time, Vlad was quietly impressed. Stanga's assertion held true. There was no necessity for sneaking into Shawara. However, Jorge likely concealed Stanga the investigator with the intention of definitively defeating Jack. A knight is akin to a sword. Not just any sword, but an exceptionally sharp one. A sword wielded from an unexpected direction could prove to be a formidable weapon. Though retired, Stanga's past as a knight still resonated, suggesting he could easily assume that role. "But are you truly going to eat it all by yourself?" Stanga queried, eyeing both his own jerky and Vlad's. "Yes," Vlad affirmed, his response indicating a final decision. With a sigh, Stanga acquiesced. Crunching on his own jerky, Stanga observed as Vlad's portion slowly transformed into a more appetizing snack over the flames. "But it doesn't look quite good," Stanga remarked, eyeing the jerky with skepticism. "The person who made it wasn't very skilled," Vlad admitted. The jerky was indeed peculiar. Instead of the usual appearance, it resembled a haphazardly assembled lump of meat. However, its enticing aroma hinted at its potential. "Even its smell is enticing me," Stanga commented, the scent of the roasting jerky nearly indistinguishable from that of cooking meat. Do you have any questions for me?" Vlad suddenly asked. "What's this all of a sudden?" Stanga inquired. "I'll answer one question for each piece of jerky. This isn't just a chance that comes along every day." Vlad hesitated briefly, glancing at Stanga as the latter chewed on the beef jerky crafted by Zemina. Why was Stanga behaving in such a manner? "If you want some, just ask," Vlad offered. "I have the dignity of a knight, you brat. Knights only accept a fair reward," Stanga replied firmly. "But you are retired," Vlad pointed out. "Still, everything I have done so far," Stanga began. "Name," Vlad interrupted. "Stanga," he reluctantly provided. "Age," Vlad continued. 42. "Hey, brat," Stanga retorted. "Why did you come all the way here?" Vlad inquired. Stanga caught the 2 pieces of jerky hurled his way by Vlad, momentarily taken aback by the pointed question directed at him. Substance within emptiness. Stanga regarded Vlad as astute, but the lad proved to be even more sharp-witted than he had anticipated. "What should I say as an unsuccessful knight?" Stanga muttered bitterly as he impaled the jerky onto a twig. "Success?" Vlad prompted. "Give me one more piece of jerky," Stanga requested. This time, Vlad reluctantly handed over the jerky he held, his expression somewhat sullen. "Land. It's a foundation you can cultivate and a pillar that allows you to stand up on your own," Stanga reflected. "Are you talking about a manor?" Vlad inquired. "Well, that's right," Stanga confirmed. Vlad was aware, too, that a manor served as one of the stepping stones that elevated knights beyond commoners. Manor was considered the ultimate goal of knights. Do you want to become a noble? In response, Stanga emitted an empty laugh and quietly fed the jerky into the fire. I just wanted to receive my fair reward, he stated. The flickering light of the bonfire cast a peculiar shadow on Stanga's face. Observing the subtle shift in Stanga's expression, Vlad sensed he was approaching a boundary he shouldn't cross. You must not cross the line. Everyone has their own world they don't wish to share with others. All right then, Vlad said, attempting to lighten the mood and relieve the tension. To appear more casual, Vlad adopted the guise of an ordinary boy. Do you know how to use aura? Now I see you are just pretending to be innocent, Stanga responded with a chuckle, turning his head away. Not all knights can use aura, and... Stanga hesitated. And, Vlad probed, even if they can use it, using it in real combat is a different story, Stanga explained. So can you use it, or not? Vlad pressed. Stanga initially thought Vlad was feigning innocence, but he soon realized the boy was sincere. Vlad's curiosity about knights and aura was genuine. Those two words resonated deeply within the boy's dreams. Take it all, Stanga instructed. What? Vlad questioned, surprised. The jerky, Stanga clarified. Quickly, Vlad handed over the pouch containing the jerky, wary of any further commands from Stanga. Knights only take their fair rewards, kid, Stanga reminded. So should I take some? Vlad inquired. In response, Stanga swiftly snatched the pouch. Sometimes you need to lift your spirit, Stanga remarked. Watching Stanga with eyes full of wonder, Vlad felt his heart pounding strongly. He could truly perceive it, the essence of knights, the aura. For that, relinquishing the jerky personally crafted by Zipfel didn't seem like a waste to him. Feeling the weight of Vlad's eager gaze, Stanga cleared his throat before speaking. All right, watch closely, he announced. Stanga unsheathed his sword with both hands, the motion fluid and silent. The well-maintained blade emerged smoothly, as if a virtuous lady were extending her hand shyly. Why do you close your left eye? Vlad asked. I must summon my inner world from the depths of my soul, Stanga replied cryptically. Vlad, perplexed by his words, simply observed as Stanga rose to his feet. A knight stood beneath the moonlight, the flickering bonfire casting shadows around him. Yet, his presence remained undiminished, unaffected by the glow of the two lights. Knight Stanga, a man who knew how to illuminate his own path. Watch, kid, Stanga murmured, leaning down to whisper to his sword as he pressed his lips to its edge. It was a conversation with his weapon, a silent incantation to manifest his inner world into reality. Wow, Vlad exclaimed, watching as a faint blue light shimmered from Stanga's sword. Though dim and faint, it unmistakably held the essence of moonlight. Even Vlad, unfamiliar with such phenomena, could discern its presence. It was Stanga's realm, also known as aura. It's really cool, Vlad remarked, a flicker of curiosity igniting in his blue eyes as he beheld Stanga's manifestation. Two shadows slinked along the walls of Shawara City in the darkness of the night. Over here, Vlad directed. Why do I have to sneak in like this? Stanga lamented briefly, acknowledging the necessity. He removed his armor and squeezed into the narrow tunnel. Are you sure this place is safe? He inquired. This is the tunnel I used until 2 years ago, Vlad reassured. 2 years ago? Stanga prompted. In the bustling commercial city of Shawara, numerous merchants and goods flowed in and out, leading to strict inspections and searches. Those lacking proper credentials were subjected to tariffs. While merchants licensed by Count Vayezid were exempt, ordinary peddlers faced these fees. It had become common for guards to extort money from individuals during these processes. Some peddlers devised methods to enter Shawara without falling victim to extortion, one of which involved enlisting the help of back-alley children. Years prior, Vlad had been one of those children. At least I didn't get caught when I've used it before, so you can relax, Vlad reassured. I feel so relieved, Stanger replied, though his expression belied his true feelings. As he surveyed the tunnel's condition, Stanga's expression stiffened. The dirt crumbled beneath his touch. It's a pity that I haven't been able to gain your trust throughout our journey so far, Stanger lamented. We're almost there now. Let's keep moving, Vlad continued, ignoring Stanga's grumbling. Okay, Stanger acquiesced, following behind Vlad without protest. The dark alley of Shawara seemed to hold its breath, anticipating the impending clash between the two bosses. Follow me, Vlad instructed, leading the way. In the darkness of the alley, devoid of any light, Vlad led Stangar with sure-footed confidence, as if he possessed the ability to see clearly in the dimness. Something feels off, Stangar remarked. Indeed, the alley Vlad traversed appeared somewhat different from his recollection. The usually orderly downtown alley now seemed unusually chaotic, with broken walls and scattered bloodstains. Is this place normally like this? Stanger inquired. No, Vlad confirmed, noting the sinister traces. Unconsciously, Vlad quickened his pace as they progressed. The chaotic scene grew more pronounced, confirming their suspicions. It appears they've already fought, Vlad observed, echoing Stangar's earlier remark. As they continued toward Rose's smiles, the disorder only intensified. It was evident that a significant battle had transpired in the area. Shit, Vlad muttered under his breath, realizing the severity of the situation. Despite growing up in the harsh environment of the back alleys, Vlad, at 16 years old, was still susceptible to the unexpected. While he attempted to maintain composure, the intensity of the situation inevitably narrowed his focus. Just as Vlad prepared to charge forward, Stangar intervened with a weighty, yet sharp voice. Before you rush blindly ahead, consider your surroundings, Stanger cautioned. Stanger's words served to broaden Vlad's narrowed perspective and clear his clouded judgment. Phew, Vlad exhaled, following Stanger's advice. He leaned against the corner, taking a moment to collect himself and breathe deeply. And then he noticed it. As the pieces of the puzzle started to come together in his mind, Vlad realized, there was an attack, but it looks like it's not over yet. Good, Stanger acknowledged, recognizing the gravity of the situation. Stanger nodded quietly as he listened to Vlad's words. He understood that no matter how skilled one might be with a sword or how cunning, if those abilities couldn't be applied in real combat, they were merely ornamental. Yet the young boy before him had demonstrated remarkable composure with just a few words. He's a promising kid, Stanger thought to himself. While Stanger harbored a desire to train Vlad properly, he was disappointed that he couldn't take the boy with him due to his current mission. We'll move separately. I'll inform you about the back door that only our organization knows, Vlad proposed. And you? Stanger inquired. I'll use the front door. It's best to draw attention away at this moment, Vlad decided calmly. Though Stanger, a former knight, might surpass him in many aspects, getting him safely to Rosa's smiles was Vlad's responsibility. See you later, Vlad bid farewell. Okay, Stanger replied. After briefing Stanger on the location of the back door, Vlad rose cautiously. This is a first for me, Vlad muttered, shrugging his shoulders as he contemplated Jack's henchmen lurking across the street. Phew. Vlad breathed a sigh of relief as he stood before the closed front door. Despite its scorched and broken appearance, the door remained shut. Confident yet uncertain, Vlad's hand trembled slightly as he gripped the door handle. Without hesitation, he pushed it open. An unpleasant sound echoed as the misaligned latch gave way, allowing Vlad entry. The elegant charm of Rosa's smiles had been replaced by broken tables, blood-soaked floors, and corpses strewn about, turning the establishment into a scene reminiscent of a battlefield. Marcella is going to faint, Vlad noted silently, quickly turning away from the gruesome sight. He had a mission to fulfill. He needed to find someone. Climbing the creaking stairs, Vlad was met with the overpowering stench of blood, a testament to the carnage that had occurred. Jorge, I'm here, Vlad announced upon reaching the 4th floor. Yeah, good job, Jorge replied tersely. Evidence of victory lay scattered across the fourth floor as Vlad arrived to find Jorge amidst the carnage, surrounded by numerous fallen foes. Shirtless and adorned with bloodstains, Jorge's imposing figure resembled a formidable mountain. Relief flooded Vlad as he beheld Jorge, who appeared injured, but otherwise unharmed. Sorry I couldn't be of more help, Vlad apologized. Nah, we all did our part, Jorge reassured him, though the bandages adorning his upper body had already begun to redden. It was evident to Vlad that a fierce battle had taken place. Are you okay? Vlad inquired with concern. It's been a while since I faced a night-level opponent, so this is what happened. Well, at least I did my job, Jorge responded, his tone tinged with exhaustion. Behind Jorge, a corpse was impaled against the wall by a sword, wearing a splendid breastplate similar to Jorge's. However, the head was missing, and blood continued to spurt from the neck. The twitching toes indicated that this grisly scene had unfolded recently. As expected, the money bug attacked first. Indeed, those who fight for profit possess different skills, Jorge remarked with disdain, surveying the corpses. Approaching him, Marcela carefully wiped blood from Jorge's body with a towel. Such gestures of care were only fitting for the male lion who defended their territory. Did you bring him? Jorge's gaze, still tinged with bloodlust, fixed on Vlad. Thankfully, Vlad possessed the confidence to respond to Jorge's sharp inquiry. Yes, I brought him. He should be waiting at the back door by now, Vlad confirmed. Good. Jorge's typically grim expression shifted, revealing a sense of determination. I'll deal with the money bug tomorrow. We need to settle this once and for all, Jorge declared, his eyes ablaze with a mix of excitement and pent-up anger. They were the most ferocious eyes Vlad had ever encountered. But how did he look? Do you think he'll handle the sword well? He didn't flee, right? Jorge voiced his concerns regarding potential variables, reflecting on the nature of a knight. Observing Jorge's attempts to collect himself and prepare for the challenges of the following day, Vlad responded, He looked fine. Even though it was only 2 days, he seemed to be in good shape. Stanger has some extravagant tendencies, Jorge mused. His body seemed agile too, Vlad added. Did he lose weight? Well, you have to take care of yourself to live longer, Jorge remarked. Yes, and... Vlad paused, recalling the sight he had witnessed under the moonlight. With a smile, he continued. He knows how to use aura. Tomorrow will definitely be our day. As one-armed Jack attempted a winning move and failed, Vlad likened the current situation to waves. If one couldn't seize the opportunity when it arose, it would sweep them away once more. Furthermore, despite Jorge's injuries, his strength remained formidable. With the addition of another former knight, it was evident to anyone that Jorge would emerge victorious. Someone's coming up, Vlad announced. What? Jorge's attention was piqued. Creaking stairs interrupted their conversation as someone ascended from below, the sound echoing due to the misaligned planks. What did you just say, Vlad? Jorge's tone was intense as he sought clarification. Vlad moved to descend the stairs and guide Stanger, but Jorge's expression stopped him in his tracks. More precisely, Jorge's twisted expression froze Vlad in place. What did you just say? Jorge's voice held a hint of urgency. Someone is coming up, Vlad repeated, sensing the gravity of the situation. No, before that, Jorge pressed, his expression growing more severe. The knight knows how to use aura. And tomorrow will be our day. Vlad hesitated, realizing the weight of his previous words. As Vlad spoke, an expression of defeat shadowed Jorge's face. Creaking stairs added to the tension, the sound growing ominously closer. Come behind me, Vlad, Jorge commanded, withdrawing his sword from the fallen knight's corpse. But I need to guide him, Vlad started, but Jorge interrupted. Was it really Stangar? Jorge's question hung in the air as Vlad turned to look behind him. Ascending the staircase, an unknown man emerged, entering through a back door known only to members of their organization. Fresh blood dripped from his sword. "So, the one you brought isn't Stungar, he doesn't know how to use aura," Jorge remarked. The unknown man stepped into view from the edge of Jorge's vision, beyond Vlad's trust. He was smiling at them,